August 6, 1975, was meant to be a pleasant night out for Laurel Mitchel, a 17-year-old native of North Webster. Then at about 10 o'clock after leaving work, she unexpectedly vanished. Her loved ones worried more and more as the hours passed before their greatest fears came true. The next day, Laurel's lifeless body was discovered floating in a river. Her family and friends were crushed by this tragic tragedy, and the small community was in shock. For 4 years, the case was unresolved until new evidence came to light. What transpired to Laurel that terrible night? Who could have injured the teenager, and why? Hi and welcome back to Mysterious Cases 007. If you are new here, please consider subscribing to Mysterious Cases 007 as it helps us motivate to create more intriguing content for you. Let's have a look at the 48-year-old cold case finally solved in 2023, Laurel Mitchel case. Our investigation today will take us to North Webster, a quaint community in Indiana's Cases007 County. It is renowned for its beautiful lake views and outdoor activities. Richard Mitchel and Wilma Mitchel welcomed Laurel into the world on May 24, 1958, in the village of North Webster. She has a younger sister named Sarah Mitchel who was 5 years her junior and an elder brother named Bruce Mitchel. The relationship between Laura and her siblings was close and only got closer over time. Despite the odd sibling conflict, Laurel developed into a beloved character in the neighborhood, where everyone admired her for her kind demeanor and welcoming smile. Her unfailing friendliness and loving spirit were two of her most endearing traits. She always went above and beyond to serve others and make them feel appreciated. She had a heart of gold. Laurel was especially beloved by the neighborhood kids, and it wasn't unusual to see her surrounded by small kids who were all vying for her admiration. Laurel was gifted in many areas, but music was possibly her greatest love. She had a voice that was naturally gifted from a young age, so it was no surprise that she was an important part of the community. Yet, Laurel's passion for music didn't end there. She was also a skilled dancer who developed her abilities by enrolling in lessons at a nearby facility. Laurel was about to start her final year of high school at Wallasey High School at the age of 17. Yet she made the decision to start working at the Coexperian, a little eatery in Epworth Forest, before the new academic year started. She saw working at the restaurant as the ideal way to obtain useful experience while also making some additional cash. She was adamant about making the most of every opportunity, and with this outlook, she gave the task all the vigor and passion she could generate. She quickly rose to the top of the popularity list among both the staff and the clients. Laurel was enjoying life to the fullest by 1975. She had a profession she loved, a friend she adored, and a promising future ahead of her. Yet she was unaware that fate had other ideas. On August 6, 1975, when the sun rose, the Mitchel family started their day without realizing that a catastrophe that would change their lives lay just around the corner. Early in the morning, Laurel, Sarah, and a friend of hers who was visiting with the family happily started their morning duties. The older brother, Bruce, was already married and away in California with the Army, so he wasn't home at the time. Immediately after saying farewell to their girls, Richard and Wilma have headed off to their various places of employment. Mid-afternoon, Laurel left for work as well. She came at the Coexperian Inn in plenty of time for her shift, cheerful and prepared to tackle the day. Time seemed to pass quickly as she met clients and carried out her tasks. Before she knew it, her shift was over when the clock struck 10 o'clock. She had planned to meet up with some of her friends at Adventureland, a well-known amusement park about half a mile from her place of employment. She gently declined a co-worker's offer to drive her home after work as a result. About 10:15 p.m., Laurel said goodbye and exited the busy inn. There was only the chirping of crickets to be heard in the background during the chilly, silent night. She was energized as she made her way to Adventureland since she was looking forward to having an exciting evening with her pals. She was engulfed by the darkness as she went away from the inn and was never seen alive again. While everything was going on, Laurel's parents thought she was out having fun with her pals and were unaware that anything had gone wrong. However, her friends believed that she had returned home after work because she did not appear. For whatever reason, they also changed their minds and went to Warsaw's county fair rather than the theme park. About midnight, Laurel's companion went back to live with Richard and Wilma. She had been a member of the group that Laurel was meant to meet. The buddy was shocked to learn that Laurel hadn't returned home, and her disbelief quickly changed to concern. The friend then described the evening to Laurel's parents, including how she failed to show up for the scheduled outing. After hearing everything Laurel's friend had to say, their hearts plummeted. They had a gut feeling that something was off. Always being responsible, Laurel would never go out beyond curfew without informing them. Richard and Wilma exchanged anxious looks as they contemplated their next course of action. They made the decision to wait for Laurel to get home and give it some more time. Yet, as the minutes stretched into hours, their angst increased and they realized they couldn't continue to wait in silence. There had to be action taken. They made a police report about Laurel's disappearance. After gathering their contact information, the dispatcher made a promise to send a team to their house to gather information. News of Laurel's disappearance traveled swiftly throughout the neighborhood as the sun rose and daylight replaced night. Worried neighbors and friends came together to look for her along the roadway and in the nearby woods. Sarah, Laurel's younger sister, woke up at home and was devastated to learn that her sister wasn't there. She was scheduled to go to a softball practice that morning, but she wasn't in the mood. She went home with a heavy heart, but her parents insisted that she attend. Around 10:30 a.m. on the same day, Glenn Dixon and his son Hager went fishing on the Elkhart River. They were hoping to catch some fish. Laurel's workplace was around 15 miles from the river. A completely dressed body was suddenly visible floating in the water as the fisherman and his son were preparing to start casting their lines. When they got closer, they saw that it was a dead body that had probably been floating there for some time. It was a horrifying find and a grisly beginning to their day. After discovering the body, the fisherman and his son immediately contacted the police, who soon swarmed to the once quiet riverbank. Everyone wanted to know who and what happened to the victim. After what felt like a lifetime, the officers found Laurel, the young adolescent whose distressed parents had reported her missing hours earlier. A police convoy arrived at Laurel's parents' home shortly after the body was found. Richard and Wilma anxiously awaited their daughter's whereabouts, but they were unprepared for the news. Richard wept as the officers told them what happened. Wilma was also distraught. Sarah felt uneasy as she got home from softball practice. Several police cars in the driveway puzzled her. She ran inside to find her parents crying, feeling uneasy. Their expressions sank her. Her father told her that her beloved sister Laurel had died with a weak voice. Sarah's life changed forever. After Laurel's body was found, her autopsy was revealed. She drowned, but her only injuries were bruises on her hands and shoulder. She was sexually abused too. The town was shocked and wondered who could have done such a horrific act. Authorities began investigating Laurel's death immediately. Detectives interviewed witnesses to answer several inquiries. Frank Overmeyer revealed a discovery. On the night Laurel disappeared, he heard a car trunk close. He suspected an old mobile. Detectives wouldn't understand the witness's comments for years. Detectives took and stored Laurel's clothes and things after her death. They featured a silver necklace, one earring, shoes, undergarments, a hoodie, and unzipped and unbuttoned blue jeans. The outfit was limited by technology at the time, but forensic technology would soon revive the probe. A significant crowd of well-wishers, acquaintances, and family members attended Laurel's funeral at a large church in the town center. Sarah stated she didn't recall the sermon. She recalled her dad and brothers squeezing her hands. After Laurel's funeral, state and local detectives worked around the clock to solve the crime. They reviewed evidence and interviewed more people, but nothing worked. No one knew how Laurel died, leaving her family in the dark. The case disappeared from the headlines over weeks, months, and years. Laurel's relatives and friends still grieved. In 2007, Indiana State Police Captain Kevin Smith led Laurel's investigation. He was determined to find Laurel's family's long-sought answers. Captain Smith was under pressure, but he was determined to give Laurel's family closure. Despite his best efforts, no fresh leads or proof surfaced for years, leaving him and his colleagues dissatisfied and discouraged. The case seemed unsolvable and hope faded. Laurel's parents worked tirelessly to keep their daughter's case in public view, hoping someone would come forward with information that would lead to an arrest. But the couple's health declined. Tragically, they died 4 months apart in 2012 without justice for Laurel. A couple who had spent their lives seeking answers and closure for their daughter died heartbrokenly. The authorities investigated Laurel's case after their deaths. The 2013 lead surprised detectives. Renee Sexton provided crucial information. In 1975, she attended a John Lehman party at 16 years old. John told her a shocking confession on the way home. He and Fred Bandy confessed to the murder. Yet, he did not provide any details regarding the offense they had done. This information fascinated detectives and could be relevant to Laurel's case. In 2014, a year after Renee Sexton, cops received another tip, this time from a guy called Bill McDonald. Bill had been a high school sophomore in 1975 and claimed to have met Fred at a party shortly after Laurel's death. Fred boasted of committing a crime near Laurel's body throughout their talk. This promising development led detectives to investigate Fred and Lehman as suspects. They searched Lehman's past but found nothing. Fred had a criminal record. He admitted to abuse and contributing to delinquency in 2001. The detectives wondered if this was just the beginning. If Fred was involved in the murder, they had to keep digging. Captain Smith assessed Laurel's wardrobe and belongings in 2019. He hoped they could ultimately decipher these evidentiary items with cutting-edge technology and methods. He sent Laurel's clothes to the state laboratory for DNA testing. Forensic scientists analyzed the evidence for weeks and succeeded. The garment DNA was male. Detectives wondered if this was the breakthrough. Captain Smith and his crew used the DNA profile to focus their search to Fred and Lehman. Detective visited Fred's Indiana home in December 2022. They wanted his DNA sample. Fred greeted them, seemingly unaware of their purpose. The investigators breathed deeply and told him why they were there. Surprising them, he even volunteered a DNA swab. After collecting the DNA sample, the investigators thanked Fred and left. A case breakthrough came on January 13th. Fred's DNA match surprised the detectives throughout this dream. He had a 13 billion to 1 chance of being the DNA source on Laurel's garment. The investigators were thrilled to get closer to solving the case that had haunted them for nearly 50 years. They immediately got a warrant for Fred's arrest using genetic evidence from the crime scene. Their work continued. They needed additional evidence to convict him and Lehman. They obtained orders to search both men's houses and take Lehman's DNA. At the time of Lauren's murder, Fred possessed a 1971 old car. With these information, authorities were able to reconstruct Laurel's horrific end. They thought Fred and Lehman put her into the car, drove her to the river, and drowned her. That shocked and horrified everyone engaged in the case. On February 6, 2023, detectives arrested Fred and Lehman at their homes for first-degree murder. They were 67 when arrested. Captain Smith startled Laurel's sister Sarah and her brother Bruce by telling them 2 men had been arrested for their sister's murder. They were grateful for the breakthrough but sad because she wishes her parents were alive to see it. Fred and Lehman pled not guilty in Noble County Court on February 28, 2023, but the evidence was overwhelming. Both guys were ordered to Noble County Jail without bail. Pretrial hearings are set on April 24, 2023. Sarah still grieves for her sister, and while she knows justice will be done, she confesses it may not be enough. Sarah stated she is delighted they'll be punished so they can't hurt anyone else, but she's still dead. Technology and detectives' work solved Laurel's murder after 4 decades. Her loved ones will remember her and remind us of the importance of justice for crime victims. Based on the evidence, why did Fred and Lehman murder Laurel? Leave comments, subscribe, like, and share.